Before Numenor's fall, before the shadow of Sauron darkened its shores, there was an age of wonder, a golden era unmatched in the history of men. Picture a land gifted by the Valar, a reward to the Edain for their valor during the First Age. In the year 32 of the Second Age, the Edain reached Numenor. This was a haven where the stars shone brighter, the seas whispered secrets of the elder days, and the people lived in harmony with the divine. Numenor, or Andor, the land of gift, was a creation of the Valar, rising from the sea as a reward for the loyalty of the Edain during the wars against Morgoth. A triangular isle, it stretched, with natural beauty, marked by tall mountains, deep forests, and fertile plains. Its people, led by Elros Numenor, the half-elven, were blessed with extended lifespans and unmatched wisdom among men. Elros, who chose mortality, ruled wisely from 32 until his death in 442 of the Second Age. His reign set the tone for Numenor's early days, one of enlightenment and gratitude toward the Valar. In these early centuries, Numenorians thrived, maintaining a deep connection with the Valar and Eldar. They revered Eru Iluvatar and sailed eastward to share wisdom and guidance with the lesser men of Middle-earth. This exchange fostered harmony and peace. Their culture was one of learning and artistry. They crafted with precision, blending elven techniques with mortal creativity, and built majestic cities like Armenelos and Romena. Their architecture reflected the stars, with tall towers and observatories honoring their divine origins. Numenorian shipwrights became legends, their vessels reaching further than any before. The geography of Numenor shaped its economy and lifestyle. Its coasts teemed with fish, while its fertile valleys grew crops in abundance. The island's center, Meneltama, Pillar of Heaven, was a sacred mountain where no tools could be used nor blood spilled. This was the spiritual heart of Numenor, where offerings were made to Iluvatar. Numenorians lived in tune with nature. They maintained lush gardens and cultivated plants, some brought by the Eldar as gifts. Lorien's influence was seen in their reverence for beauty and preservation, evident in places like the gardens of Andúnié. Initially, the Numenorians adhered strictly to the ban of the Valar, forbidding them from sailing west toward Ammon. This restriction was a reminder of their mortality and a safeguard against pride. While they engaged with Middle-earth, they avoided dominion over its peoples, earning them the title Kings of Men, but not tyrants. Their isolation allowed Numenor to flourish independently. Unlike Middle-earth, untouched by wars or the influence of Sauron, it became a utopia of men. The preservation of peace was paramount, embodied in the loyalty to the Valar and the Eldar. The kings of Numenor descended from Elros, governed with wisdom. The early kings, Tar Meneldor, Tar Aldarion, focused on maritime exploration and fostering alliances with the elves of Tolaresia. This collaboration enriched Numenorian lore and technology. Tar Aldarion, in particular, emphasized shipbuilding, establishing trade routes with Middle-earth. His reign marked the beginning of Numenor's outward reach, but also introduced tensions, as some men grew uneasy with his focus beyond their island. As the years passed, the seeds of Numenor's future struggles were sown. Their isolation bred a sense of superiority over Middle-earth, and their long lifespans began to feel like a burden rather than a gift. These early centuries were a time of innocence and prosperity, yet within them lay the tensions that would one day lead to Numenor's downfall. From its glittering shores to its majestic cities, Numenor was a vision of what men could achieve. However, its fate serves as a reminder of the perils of pride and the importance of humility before divine powers. By the middle of the Second Age, Numenor's mastery of the seas had reached unprecedented heights. Under the guidance of Tar Aldarion, the sixth king, Numenor became a maritime power. Aldarion's guild of venturers constructed ships capable of weathering the fiercest storms, and voyaging further than ever before. He established the haven of Vinyaland on the coasts of Middle-earth to aid their expanding naval reach. Though Aldarion's vision ushered in an era of exploration, it also introduced subtle tensions within Numenorian society. His relentless focus on Middle-earth strained his relationship with his wife, Erendis, and sowed division between those who wished to remain insular and those who sought greater involvement in the affairs of the wider world. The cities of Numenor were testaments to the ingenuity and creativity of its people. Ar-Menellos, the capital, was the crown jewel, boasting the tower of King Elros and the house of the king, which shone with the golden light of its domes. The city was built with elegance and precision, harmonizing with the natural beauty of its surroundings. Another major city, Andunye, located on the western shores, held a special place in Numenor's heart. It was the seat of the faithful, a faction that remained steadfastly loyal to the Valar and Elves. Its proximity to Tol Eressëa, the island of the Eldar, symbolized Numenor's bond with the West. Romena, the primary harbor on the eastern coast, epitomized Numenor's naval prowess. Its docks bustled with activity as shipwrights crafted vessels unmatched by any in Middle-earth, ensuring Numenor's dominion over the wave. As the years passed, subtle ideological rifts began to emerge. Two factions quietly formed: the faithful, who remained loyal to the Valar, and the King's men, who leaned toward independence from their ancient guardians. While this divide did not initially lead to open conflict, it reflected differing philosophies on Numenor's role in the world. The faithful, concentrated in Andune, preserved the traditions of honoring Eru and seeking wisdom from the elves. In contrast, the king's men, often situated in Ar-Menellos, desired greater autonomy from the Valar's guidance. This ideological tension simmered beneath Numenor's golden surface, hinting at the struggles that would later define its decline. The gift of extended life granted to Numenorians by the Valar was both a blessing and a burden. While they lived far longer than other men, their lifespans were finite, a fact that troubled many. Over time, Numenorians became preoccupied with the inevitability of death, viewing it as a curse rather than a natural end. This existential anxiety began to darken their thoughts, subtly eroding the harmony of their early centuries. The faithful, heeding the wisdom of the Valar, accepted mortality as the will of Eru. However, others longed for immortality, envying the undying elves and the eternal life of those who dwelled in Aman. This growing restlessness set the stage for Numenor's eventual hubris and rebellion. In their golden age, Numenorians were not only master shipbuilders, but also avid scholars. Libraries filled with lore from both Numenor and Middle-earth adorned their cities. They chronicled their history, studied the stars, and advanced knowledge in agriculture, medicine, and metallurgy. They maintained a strong oral tradition as well, recounting tales of their ancestors in the First Age. These stories, passed down through generations, were rich with the heroism of the Edain and the wisdom of their alliances with the Eldar. For centuries, Numenor's interactions with Middle-earth were largely benevolent. They shared knowledge, taught farming techniques, and helped build fortifications to protect the less advanced men from orcs and other threats. This outreach strengthened bonds between Numenor and the men of Middle-earth, who began to revere them as wise and powerful protectors. However, their growing power alarmed Sauron, who had begun to stir in Middle-earth. Sauron, recognizing Numenor's potential threat, chose Mordor as his stronghold, around the year 1000 of the Second Age. Though he did not yet directly confront Numenor, his malevolence loomed over the world like a gathering storm. By the end of Numenor's early Golden Age, seeds of discontent had already begun to grow. The rise of the King's Men, dissatisfaction with mortality, and increasing pride in their achievements hinted at a future where harmony might give way to ambition and rebellion. While these early centuries were marked by enlightenment and peace, they also laid the groundwork for Numenor's tragic fall. The glory of Numenor before Ar-Pharazon remains a poignant reminder of the heights men can achieve and the dangers of losing sight of humility and gratitude. As the centuries unfolded, the bond between Numenor and the Valar began to wane subtly, though the change was gradual and cloaked in the veneer of prosperity. While the faithful, the Elendili, remained loyal to the ancient ways, many Numenorians grew increasingly restless under the ban of the Valar, which forbade them from sailing west toward Ammon. This prohibition, a reminder of their mortality, began to chafe at the Numenorian psyche as the shadow of mortality grew heavier in their hearts. In their early days, the Numenorians honored the Valar with reverence, offering prayers and sacrifices upon the sacred mountain of Meneltarma. These ceremonies were solemn yet joyful, celebrating the blessings bestowed upon their people. However, by the time of the mid-Second Age, the practice of ascending Meneltarma had begun to decline among the king's men, marking the first signs of estrangement. While Numenor's engagement with Middle-earth started as a benevolent effort to uplift its people, it inadvertently exposed Numenorians to envy and ambition. The lesser men of Middle-earth, known as the Middlemen, revered the Numenorians as near-divine beings, often offering them tributes of wealth and fealty. This admiration began to inflate the pride of some Numenorians, who started to see themselves as superior even to the Valar. The king's men, especially, exploited Middle-earth's resources. They justified their actions as necessary for maintaining Numenor's grandeur, but gradually drifted from their initial purpose of stewardship. By the late Second Age, this shift in perspective would become a major catalyst for Numenor's descent into imperialism. The ideological divide between the faithful and the king's men deepened as the centuries progressed. The faithful, still strong in places like Andúni, clung to the wisdom of the Eldar and the Valar, accepting the gift of mortality with humility. They saw Numenor as a steward of peace, meant to use its strength for the benefit of the world. Conversely, the king's men, centered in Armenelos and increasingly dominant in courtly politics, embraced a growing nationalism. They sought to free Numenor from the perceived constraints of Valinor's influence, interpreting the ban as an insult to their power rather than a safeguard against hubris. These tensions were not yet violent, but they cast long shadows over Numenor's golden age. A fascinating aspect of Numenorian culture was the elevated status of women. Queens ruled in their own right when circumstances required, and their wisdom often guided the course of Numenor's history. The most notable example from this era was Tar-Ankh-Kalame, the first ruling queen. Her reign, beginning in 1075 of the Second Age, demonstrated the Numenorians' respect for lineage and law, as well as the enduring strength of their traditions. Women also played central roles in cultural preservation, being keepers of law and memory. Erendis, though her story ended in tragedy, exemplified the conflict between Numenor's increasing ambition and its older, simpler values. Her strained relationship with Tar al-Darion highlighted the internal struggles of a society teetering between reverence for the natural world and the allure of dominion. Numenor's natural beauty was legendary. The island was divided into regions, each offering unique resources and splendor. The western region, Andastar, was marked by towering cliffs and ancient forests, while the eastern Orostar was fertile, known for its golden fields of grain. The central Hianustar boasted vineyards that produced the finest wines, a reflection of Numenor's agricultural richness. However, as the king's men began exploiting Middle-earth, a subtle shift occurred within Numenor itself. Increased consumption of resources and the gradual prioritization of wealth over harmony hinted at the beginning of environmental and societal imbalance. This tension between preservation and expansion was emblematic of the choices Numenorians faced during this period. Spirituality was once the core of Numenor's identity. The faithful made regular pilgrimages to Meneltarma to honor Eru Ilúvatar, and their prayers were filled with gratitude for their blessings. However, as pride and ambition took root, many Numenorians began to view these traditions as burdensome or irrelevant. The king's men, in particular, started to question the teachings of the Valar. This skepticism did not immediately translate into outright rebellion, but it laid the groundwork for the eventual rise of Ar-Pharazon and the direct challenge to the west. By neglecting their spiritual heritage, Numenorians severed themselves from the very foundation of their greatness. By the year 1600 of the Second Age, the Numenorians still enjoyed their golden age, but it was no longer as radiant as it had been. Pride, ambition, and division worked as subtle cracks in the foundation of their utopia. The king's men held more sway in governance, while the faithful increasingly retreated to their western havens, isolated yet unwavering in their loyalty to the Valar. Despite these undercurrents of discontent, Numenor remained a beacon of power and culture, a jewel in the sea. Yet the coming of Sauron, the growing envy of mortality, and the desire for dominion over Middle-earth foreshadowed the struggles that would soon consume the island kingdom. The tale of Numenor before Ar-Pharazon is one of awe-inspiring achievement and quiet foreboding. It was a land gifted by the Valar, where the descendants of Elros Numenor achieved heights of wisdom, artistry, and power unrivaled in the history of men. From the lush landscapes of Andastar to the glittering towers of Armanelos, Numenor was a realm of unparalleled beauty and harmony, thriving as a beacon of the best of mortal potential. However, beneath the veneer of prosperity, Numenor harbored seeds of its eventual fall. Its people, long blessed with wisdom and longevity, grew restless under the shadow of mortality. The once unquestioned reverence for the Valar and Eru Ilúvatar began to wane as ambition and pride crept into the hearts of the king's men. The ideological divide between the faithful and the king's men, though initially subdued, marked a growing rift that would fracture the unity of Numenorian society. The story of Numenor is as much about the heights of human achievement as it is a cautionary tale. It serves as a mirror for the duality of humanity, the ability to create and innovate, balanced by the danger of hubris and the lust for power. In its golden age, Numenor embodied the ideals of stewardship, harmony, and gratitude. Its people uplifted others, shared knowledge, and sought enlightenment through their connection to the Valar and the Eldar. Yet, the cracks began to show when gratitude gave way to entitlement, and the yearning for immortality overshadowed acceptance of the gift of life and death. These subtle changes foretold the island's tragic destiny. To examine Numenor before Ar-Pharazon is to witness a civilization at the peak of its potential. For centuries, it flourished as a harmonious society, an exemplar of what men could achieve when guided by wisdom and humility. Its early kings, like Elros Numenor and Tar Aldarion, balanced power with responsibility, and its people revered the divine as the foundation of their strength. Yet this golden age was fragile. The very gifts that set Numenor apart, its strength, wisdom, and blessings, became sources of dissatisfaction. Mortality, the defining characteristic of men, was seen as a limitation rather than a gift, and the restrictions imposed by the Valar were increasingly perceived as chains. The lure of power, the desire for independence, and the growing pride of Numenorian society sowed the seeds of its undoing. Ar-Pharazon's rise to power marked the end of Numenor's golden era and the beginning of its descent. His ambition, fueled by Sauron's cunning manipulation, brought Numenor to rebellion against the Valar. The once bright jewel of the sea became a kingdom consumed by its own pride, culminating in the disastrous attempt to claim immortality through the invasion of a man. But even in the shadow of Numenor's fall, hope endured. The faithful, led by Elendil and his sons, preserved the spirit of Numenor in exile, carrying its legacy to Middle-earth. Through them, the ideals of the early Numenorians, the pursuit of wisdom, the valor of men, and reverence for the divine lived on in the realms of Arnor and Gondor. The story of Numenor is a poignant reminder of the delicate balance between ambition and humility, mortality and immortality, power and stewardship. It reflects the universal truths of Tolkien's legendarium, that greatness can flourish when guided by wisdom and gratitude, but it can just as easily falter when consumed by pride and the fear of death. Before Ar-Pharazon, Numenor was a land of promise, a testament to the potential of men to create a world of beauty and harmony. And though its downfall was tragic, it was not without purpose. For in its fall, Numenor offered lessons to those who would come after, that true strength lies in humility, and that the acceptance of mortality is not a weakness, but the very essence of what it means to be human. Thank you for embarking on this exploration of Numenor's early days. Its story, though rooted in the annals of Middle-earth, resonates far beyond the shores of Aman and the histories of men. May it inspire us to strive for wisdom and humility in our own lives.